Wednesday, October 30th, 2024. You are listening to the Daily Dose Sports Podcast, and I am your host, Clint Daly, coming to you from the Mile High City here in Denver, Colorado. And we are back for another week of talking sports with a dose of common sense. Hey, happy Wednesday to you. Hope you had a good weekend. Hope that your week is off to a strong start. I hope you and your family and your friends are all staying strong and you're all staying healthy right now. And yes, kids, tomorrow is Halloween. Hey, do you have that costume picked out? And let me ask you this. Does it look better than that statue the Miami Heat unveiled of Dwayne Wade this past weekend? That was odd, wasn't it? I have no idea why they decided to make a statue of Dr. Fraser Crane from Cheers for Dwayne Wade.
I understand the local Boston Red Sox baseball franchise has a Herculean task of it to qualify for the postseason tournament.
Yeah, they really stink this year.
Stink? Interesting theory.
That seemed like an odd choice to me, but that seemed to be the direction that they're going. Are you ready for Halloween? Do you have the pumpkin carved? Do you have the candy ready to hand out to the kids tomorrow night? You know, remember back when we were kids, and I know I'm speaking maybe to the audience at this point that's a little bit older, maybe not the young kids, but do you remember when we were kids and we would go out trick-or-treating? And then when you got home, your parents had to inspect your candy. And why did they say they needed to inspect your candy? They said they needed to inspect our candy for drugs and razor blades. Is that still a thing? I'm not sure, because my kids are like in college now. But I've got news for you. There is no one handing out drugs. I'll tell you that. People are stingy with their drugs now. They're not sharing. You know, they used to tell us that strangers were going to give us little, paper acid in our candy. This was back in like the 80s, right? Now, I'll tell you this. As a kid, I would come home and I would go through all my candy and look for the drugs in my candy. Never found a thing. And now, at least here in Colorado, we have legalized, THC. They literally have THC candies. They have like Sour Patch weed, right? Ain't nobody handing that stuff out for Halloween. Have you seen the prices on that stuff? Hey, I can go buy a bag of 50 Reese's peanut butter cups for like $12. You're not getting no edibles for $12. No one is handing out edibles. And who started that dumb rumor of anyone putting razor blades in our candy? Where in the world did that even come from? I never did believe that then, and I sure don't believe it now. Handing out razor blades? In this economy? Ain't nobody handing out razor blades. You're telling me that creepy old guy down the street went to the store, he had to push the help button and wait for the 18-year-old employee with the big roll of keys to come out and then unlock the razors out of that stupid glass case. And then that creepy old dude bought what? A few dozen razor blades? That would be like $200 in this economy. I'm telling you this right now. If you find a house that is handing out razor blades, let me know. Because I'll go back again and again and again until I can get enough razor blades to replace all the blades in my Gillette Siete or whatever it is that I have now. Those things are expensive. There are things in this world that are scary, but free drugs and razor blades for Halloween ain't it. In fact, if you really want to be scared this year for Halloween, forget the Halloween movie. Forget the slasher films. Forget the Friday the 13th and Saw and Zombie and Michael Myers and all that stuff. Don't even bother with the haunted house or the haunted pumpkin patch or any of that stuff. If you really want to be scared this year, just wait a week until election night. That is about to be the scariest day of the year by far for everyone. Hey, I would rather have the guy with the chainsaw chasing me than the mess we're going to have going on next week. The only positive that I can take away from it, the only treat, if you will, is that soon those horrible political commercials are going to be over. And my goodness, I can't wait for that. Hey, today on The Dose, it is Halloween week. And yes, we are going to be talking about a few scary things today. And you think about scary things. What would scare you right now? Obviously, election night. But losing your job could be scary. We might have to discuss that a little today. And we are going to have a Halloween flavored Daily Dose Top 5. So be sure that you stick around for that. But first, the New York Yankees managed to stave off elimination last night. But it feels like maybe they just delayed the inevitable. And the worst part? The Dodgers will probably still win it all on the road in New York tonight. So again, you just kind of delayed it by a night, but does it really matter? Now, if the Yankees somehow won tonight, yeah, then I guess you could go ahead and start getting nervous. But we got the 2024 World Series matchup that we all wanted, right? We got the number 1 seeded New York Yankees facing the number 1 seeded Los Angeles Dodgers, and the first 2 games were pretty good. Hey, game 1 was amazing. Game 1 goes extra innings with Dodgers first baseman Freddie Freeman hitting that grand slam in the 10th inning, giving LA the win. And then kind of felt like the series slowly went downhill. Game 2, not quite as good. Game 3, not quite as good. Game 4 has some tension around it because of what is at stake. But game 4, it just kind of continued, right? But I will say this about the World Series. Big win for Major League Baseball. Hey, the Fox television ratings drew 15.2 million viewers for Game 1. That is the largest Game 1 audience since back in 2017 when we had the World Series between the Houston Astros and the LA Dodgers. And that is a 62% increase over last year's Arizona Diamondbacks versus Texas Rangers opener. And I'll throw this out there as well. Yes, those ratings are significantly better than anything the NBA has done in their finals over the past decade. It's crazy because back when I was a kid, back when it was Michael or Magic or Larry, I would have never thought that Major League Baseball could catch up to the NBA again and pass the NBA, but here we are. A lot of reasons for it. We've talked about them here on The Dose. But the NBA, yeah, they probably shouldn't be feeling that great about this. One more bit of brief news here, just coming out. An Amber Alert has been issued for a New York man by the name of Aaron Judge. Interesting news. If seen, please report his whereabouts immediately to authorities. Here's a question for you. 3 Aarons. Who's the least popular Aaron in New York right now? Aaron Judge, Aaron Boone, Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, it's Rodgers, right? Which is weird because going into the season, I don't know that we would have saw that coming. But again, here we are. So today on The Dose, in honor of Halloween, we thought we would talk about something scary. That's right. The dark specter of the Turk that is coming to tell your favorite team's head coach that their services are no longer needed. Hey, we are nearing the midway point in both college football and the NFL. And we know there are teams that are going to start making moves soon. They say that it is so they have the best options to hire. Hey, we got to make sure we get rid of this guy so we can go hire the best guy. But really, they just do it to try to motivate their team for a few weeks. And really, they just do it to shut their fans up. Honestly, it doesn't work that often. It might work in the short term, but it doesn't work for very long. Look at the New York Jets. Robert Saleh is already gone. And yet they still keep losing games. And you're telling me because they acted early, now they're going to really have access to the top coaches? I don't believe that for 1 second. You watch. The New York Jets will still end up with a coach that is terrible. Well, like Aaron Rodgers. But right now, let's take a look at the hottest coaching seats in the NFL. And I'm going to go in order of heat. And right now, I would say that the hottest seat in the NFL belongs to Doug Peterson with the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jags got a much-needed win over the Patriots in Week 7. But this past week, they found a way to lose to the Green Bay Packers, who didn't even have Jordan Love. Now the Jags are sitting at 2-6. They're in third place in the AFC South. Jacksonville's defense ranks 32nd in yards allowed. That's unreal. And I know injuries have been a factor, but that unit still has a lot of talent. They've got a lot of top draft picks on that team. And I also know it's really easy to blame quarterback Trevor Lawrence. I mean, look at the guy. He looks like an ugly woman. But he's not getting that much help either because Jacksonville's receiving corps ranks 4th in the league. They have 16 dropped passes. Hey, when he throws it well, you got to catch it at least. The Jags' 2 wins this year have come against the Colts, who had Joe Flacco playing, and those 1-6 Patriots. Now, the odds that this team is going to rally, they're pretty low. Because next up, Eagles, then Vikings, then Lions, then Texans. Hey, this team, honestly, the Jags might be 2-10 after that. And it seems like just a matter of time before owner Shad Khan gives Doug Peterson the axe. I'm going to predict that this is going to take place after that Lions game during the Jags bye week. I'm saying Jacksonville dismisses him then. See if he lasts that long. Next up, remember at the beginning of the season when the New Orleans Saints started 2-0 and they were scoring like 50 points a game? And then they had a bunch of injuries and now they're having a bunch of losses. They had another blowout loss to the Los Angeles Chargers on Sunday. New Orleans is now 2-6. Quarterback Derek Carr is out. And that high-flying offense is now 23rd in yards per play. Oh, and by the way, its defense ranks dead last in total yardage allowed. It isn't just that the Saints are losing, though. They're getting blown out. Because, like I said, remember, they had 2 big blowout wins to start the year. They are now a -21 in point differential. So head coach Dennis Allen, yeah, he's in big trouble. The Saints haven't finished better than 9-8 in any of their last 3 full seasons. And since taking over for Sean Payton, Dennis Allen has an 18-23 mark. He has 0 playoff appearances. Hey, at some point, New Orleans is going to have to rebuild this team. They're going to have to rebuild their coaching staff because it doesn't look like, even if they get Derek Carr back, they're not going to be a playoff contender. The Saints may pull the trigger on Dennis Allen very, very soon. You know, next up, in his first year on the job, Brian Daboll took the New York Giants to their first playoff appearance in 6 years. Yeah, and then in the 2 seasons since, things have gone horribly for the Giants, and 2024 might be the worst of the bunch. The Giants are now 2-6. They rank 27th in offense. And remember, this is a team that went out in the offseason and they tried to bump up that offensive line. Well, quarterback Daniel Jones doesn't look any better. He ranks 23rd in passing efficiency in the league. And remember, Daboll is supposed to be an offensive mastermind. Remember, he's the guy that got Josh Allen going up in Buffalo. But he doesn't look like he's doing anything with Daniel Jones. He just keeps turning it over again and again. Now, 3 years in, Brian Daboll has a 17-43 record as head coach. Now, I really thought this season is going to be either a do or die year. Yeah, it's looking like a die year. And I actually think Daboll could be gone and Jones could be gone. The Giants may be rebuilding. Now, I'm going to give you another team. And when I say it, you're going to go, how are they not higher? I'll tell you why. Because the Dallas Cowboys are just 3-4 this year. And a playoff chance is starting to look more and more like a long shot. Because Dallas has looked like one of the most disjointed teams in football at times this year. And I would think that's going to end up falling on head coach Mike McCarthy. The Cowboys are now a -50 in point differential. Their defense is allowing over 28 points per game. That ranks them 31st in the league. Now, I know, again, injuries have played a role. I get it, particularly on defense. But we've seen regression everywhere. Dak Prescott isn't playing well. He's turning the ball over far too often. This team's run game is non-existent. Now, is this McCarthy's fault? No, not completely. But Jerry Jones isn't going to fire himself. And next up for Dallas, Atlanta, Philly, and Houston. Good luck. Dallas entered the year as one of those teams that was under the most pressure. And it's not going well. And Mike McCarthy is running out of time. The only reason I don't have him higher on my list is because, if I'm being honest, I feel like Jerry Jones might just forget to fire him. He's busy, I don't know, talking to his jello or something. I'm going to add one bonus coach on our list. And who else could I add after that debacle on Sunday but Chicago Bears head coach Matt Eberflus? Hey, the Bears went out and they stocked this team with talent to surround rookie quarterback Caleb Williams. And at times they do. They look like a playoff contender. And at other times they don't. But I've said it before, front offices don't fire themselves. And after that moronic ending on that final drive on Sunday against Washington, where you didn't make Washington use timeouts, you had timeouts and could have got more organized, and then you allow a defensive back to not even be paying attention to the play, and he's the one that costs you the game. I don't know. I have to think Bears brass, they're at least looking at Matt Eberflus. Like I said, they're not going to blame themselves. That was completely mismanaged. Eberflus was probably feeling pretty good going into that game. Yeah, those good feelings are gone now. But let's move over to the college ranks. We don't have quite as many because I don't want to look at the coaches over there that are, the little schools or the schools we don't know. I'm not going to look at the little group of 5 schools. But we do have a few coaches that if they're not careful, the Grim Reaper will be coming for them very, very soon. And I hate to put this first guy on our list, but I have no choice. Because North Carolina opened the season 3-0, and then that fell apart really, really quick. The Tar Heels lost 4 straight, including giving up 70 to James Madison. And then they lost 3 in-conference games by 10 or less. Hey, head coach Mac Brown, he's been really good there. He's 41-31 in Chapel Hill. But that program is not headed in the right direction right now. And the defense is so bad. Now, I don't expect Mac Brown to actually be fired, but he's 73. I could easily see UNC offering him some sort of, BS ambassador job or something soon and moving him upstairs. But Mac Brown's in a little bit of trouble. Now, Hugh Freeze was a really popular hire on the Plains at Auburn after that Brian Harsin mess. But we're not seeing a whole lot of progress out of Hugh. This year, the Tigers are just 3-5. They've lost to Cal and they've lost to Arkansas. Now, I will give Hugh Freeze this. He did have some success on the recruiting trail that should buy him one more year. But you might want to find a way to still be competitive this year. And you also might try to not call any escort services from your university office. That'll get you in trouble. After last year's 3-9 record, Baylor head coach Dave Aranda made some major changes to his program on both sides of the ball. And so far, it looks like it's improved a little bit. The Bears are 4-4. They actually battled really, really closely with BYU. But Aranda is now just 27-29 overall in Waco after that first big season when he led Baylor to the Big 12 title. Well, the Bears have now won 2 in a row. They beat Texas Tech and they beat Oklahoma State. But next up for Baylor, they will face TCU and West Virginia next. Hey, Aranda needs to win those games and become bowl eligible to keep his critics quiet, or he could still be in some trouble. Next up, the overall hot seat temperature on Billy Napier has cooled a little at Florida because they have at least battled in their last few games. They've gone 3-1 and they took Tennessee to overtime. However, Billy Napier's seat is still hot because Florida is now 15-17 overall under his watch, and he has yet to record a winning season. Hey, I know Florida had a really tough schedule this year. If the Gators could get a bowl, I could maybe see them bring Billy Napier back. But in order to do that, because of that tough schedule, Florida would have to beat Florida State in Tallahassee and then pull an upset on either Georgia, Texas, LSU, or Ole Miss. That is going to be really, really tough. I'm going to throw in one more bonus coach here, and that is the coach that I've been watching all season. And yes, I'm talking about Ohio State's Ryan Day. I understand he's 62-9 at Ohio State. I understand the Buckeyes are 6-1 this year. Yes, they are still on track for a spot in the college football playoff, but let Ryan Day lose to Michigan again, and all bets are off. Think it can't happen? Ask John Cooper if it can happen. It can. Hey, Day isn't on a hot seat per se, but it will burst into flames quickly if Ohio State can't beat that team up north this year. Now, as we do so many weeks here at the Daily Dose, we need to get over to our Daily Dose Top 5. Of course, like I said, tomorrow is Halloween. Hopefully, you have that Halloween costume already, or maybe you even wore it this past weekend to a party and it was a big hit. But you know, it is at this time of year that we kind of look for things to scare us, right? We go see scary movies. We go to Halloween parties in costumes. Many people will go to the haunted house. They'll go to the haunted hayride or whatever. But in the world of sports, what scares us? Who scares us? I mean, we can think back to some really scary teams. You think back to those mid-70s Pittsburgh Steelers. You think back to those mid-80s Chicago Bears. They were legit scary. There have been some scary athletes, like not scary on the field, but like they might kill you, right? But what about scary athletes on the playing surface? Who are the scariest athletes in terms of playing them? Today, our Daily Dose Top 5 is counting down the 5 scariest athletes, but within the lines. And that is key, because outside the lines would be a completely different list. We start off with number 5. And we start off with a sport where being scary on the playing surface is also kind of the same as being scary off the playing surface, because we all know you can fight in hockey. But what makes our number 5 entry even scarier is the fact that this guy had a term named after him that included both of those aspects. Because if you score a Gordie Howe hat trick, that means you scored a goal, you assisted on a goal, and you got in a good fight. A right wing, Gordie Howe stood 6 foot tall. He was 205 pounds, and he had the perfect mix of strength, speed, and toughness. He could skate past you, he could skate through you, and he could drop the gloves and fight you too. Hey, Howe finished his career with 801 goals and 1,049 assists. That was the most of anyone in NHL history until a guy by the name of Wayne Gretzky came along. Howe led the league in scoring multiple seasons. He led the league in assists multiple seasons, and he won 4 titles. Hey, Gordie Howe is a really tough guy. He wasn't a huge fighter. He mostly just played a very physical style, but he was so dangerous. And he could mix it up. If he wanted to go, he'd go. Gordie Howe scared opponents because he could beat them in so many ways. He comes in today on our list at number 5. We go next to number 4. And we jump to the NFL for this one. And when you think of scary players within the lines, you can come up with a ton of players in the NFL. Quarterbacks like Tom Brady or John Elway, Joe Montana, Roger Staubach, they scared opposing defenses. Pass rushers like Joe Green or Lawrence Taylor or Deacon Jones, they scared both offensive linemen and opposing quarterbacks when they stepped on the field. Dangerous runners like Earl Campbell or Barry Sanders or Walter Payton, they would make you either completely miss and look a fool, or they'd scare you. You didn't even want to touch them because they're going to run you over. Receivers like Randy Moss and Jerry Rice would give opposing teams nightmares, and defensive backs like Ronnie Lott and Steve Atwater literally tried to end you on the field. But I'm going to give you one of our scariest players in history between the lines. And I'm going to give it to a guy that is actually on the offensive line where you might least expect a scary guy to be. And also, he was a guard, not a tackle. So you might expect that even less. And yet, like the Gordie Howe hat trick, this player also had a phrase coined in his honor. Because the Larry Allen flu was real. Now, Larry Allen grew up in Compton, California. He had a troubled childhood. He had meningitis as a little kid. He nearly died at 6 weeks old. And he was also stabbed 12 times in the head, shoulder, and neck by a neighbor while trying to protect his brother when he was just 10 years old. Larry Allen didn't graduate high school, so he ended up at Sonoma State and would eventually be selected by the Dallas Cowboys in the second round of the '94 NFL Draft. But at 6'3" and 325 pounds, it made no sense that Larry Allen could run a 5-second 40 or that he once benched over 700 pounds. By game 4 of his rookie year, he was a starter, and he never gave the job back. Of course, we know he protected quarterback Troy Aikman. He led the way for running back Emmitt Smith to break the all-time rushing record. But it was more than that. In 2013, Cowboys players and staff talked openly about opposing players, well-known players, contracting the Larry Allen flu prior to having to face him on game day. And they say those players would escape and say, "Oh, I'm kind of sick today. I don't think I can go." And they just wouldn't suit up. It wasn't just that Larry Allen manhandled people. It wasn't just that he beat people up. He did it to some of the best. He did it to guys like John Randall and Justin Tuck and Hugh Douglas and Warren Sapp. Larry Allen would go to 11 Pro Bowls and win a Super Bowl with the Cowboys, but that doesn't really tell the full story of just how scary he was when big, nasty NFL defensive linemen are like, "Nah, I think I'm going to call off this week." You know you're a scary guy. And for that reason, he comes into down our list at number 4. We move next to number 3 on our list of scariest players on the playing surface. Because I didn't want to do a list of players off the playing surface, I figured, a list like OJ, Aaron Hernandez, Oscar Pistorius, Ray Caruth, and Ray Lewis, I didn't want to go that route. So instead, we get to a guy that easily could be higher on our list because, once again, he scared people with his ability and also with the fact that he might kill you. Because Major League Baseball pitcher Nolan Ryan was one of the toughest guys to ever play baseball. He played 27 seasons in MLB, and he posted stats and numbers that honestly, they sound fake. Ryan threw 5,714 strikeouts. That's the most in MLB history. But what's crazy, that is almost 1,000 more than second place, which belongs to Randy Johnson. That's how much better he was. So here's another way of appreciating how insane that record is. If we had a pitcher right now making their debut, to reach what Nolan Ryan did, they would have to average 9.5 strikeouts while pitching 30 games a year for 20 years or 600 career starts. That's insane. Hey, Nolan Ryan consistently threw the ball close to 100 miles per hour. And if you made him angry, he just might put one in your ear. And if he thought that wasn't very nice, you could go full Robin Ventura and charge the mound, and then you could eat his right hand about 17 times before you knew what hit you. Pitch count? No. Ryan didn't do that. Ryan threw 7 complete game no-hitters. He had 4 seasons in his 27-year career where he racked up more strikeouts than base runners allowed. He had 13 seasons of 200-plus innings pitched. They don't make players like Nolan Ryan anymore. He would laugh in the face of modern-day players that talk about load management. And if they didn't like it, he'd fight them too. Nolan Ryan was a scary dude on the playing surface, and he comes in today on our list at number 3. So we reached number 2. And we get to a guy that you might have thought might be on top of our list, but I'm going to place him at number 2 for a few reasons. However, there is no one in his prime that was more feared on the playing surface than young Iron Mike Tyson. Tyson won his first 19 professional fights by knockout, 12 of them in the first round. And if you go back and you watch some of those fights, you will see grown men that make their living by fighting other grown men. They were scared to death before the bell even rang. Tyson had explosive punching power, and he liked to use it in close to throw heavy, powerful hooks while down in a crouch where he could just punish your head and your body. Hey, when Mike was in his prime, walking into the ring with just the cut hotel towel, no socks, no robe, and he was called out for the pre-fight instructions by the referee, you could see numerous opponents were already beaten. They wanted nothing to do with Mike Tyson. Now, to be fair, his opponents were not always great. And once his aura of invincibility cracked, Mike Tyson just wasn't quite the same. But before Buster Douglas beat him, Mike Tyson was the scariest dude on the planet. His punching power was always a threat to end a fight early, and if things weren't going his way, he just might try to eat his opponent. Mike Tyson went 50-6 as a fighter. He had 44 knockouts, and honestly, you had to see it to understand it. But Mike Tyson comes in today on our list of scariest athletes on the playing surface at number 2. Although, to be fair, Mike was pretty scary off the surface as well. So we reach the number 1 scariest athlete on the playing surface, and we get to a guy that when I say it, you're going to go, come on, Clint, what are you talking about? Hear me out. Name me an athlete that was so completely intimidating that even now, 25 years later, no one wants to talk trash because they don't want to make him angry. Because in his day, if you did challenge him and you did talk trash to him, he would torture you. He would embarrass you, and he would tell you all about it. Players in the NBA referred to him as a sleeping tiger, and their coaches would warn him, don't wake up that tiger. Want a few stories to prove my point? Don't worry, I've got them. In November 95, during their expansion season, the Vancouver Grizzlies, improbably, found themselves leading the Chicago Bulls, who would win 72 games that year late in the game. After hitting a jumper to give the Grizzlies a lead, rookie guard Derek Martin ran by the Bulls bench and said, I told you we were going to beat you tonight. Michael Jordan immediately stood up, checked himself into the game, and as he walked onto the court, he said, little man, never talk trash to me. He then proceeded to obliterate Vancouver single-handedly. He scored 19 points in the final 6 minutes, and as he walked off the court, he looked at the bench and said, shut up, you little blank. Miami Heat guard Steve Smith told a story. One time he started counting backwards at the beginning of the game. He said something like 38. I didn't know what he's talking about. Then he said 36. Oh, wait a minute. He's going backwards, and when he gets to 0, it means he got 40 on me. He got 40, and he checked himself out of the game. One time, Pacers great Reggie Miller got way too cocky. He's playing against Michael, and he said, at half, I had 10, and Michael had 4, and I'm doing all this talking. End of the game, he ended up with 44. I ended up with 12. He outscored me 40-2, and as he's walking off, he said to me, be careful. Don't talk to Black Jesus like that. Kevin Garnett told a story. One night, his teammate Isaiah Ryder was having a good game. So KG started talking trash to Mike. Hey, Ryder had 24 going into the fourth. Mike only has 19. And as they walked out in the fourth quarter, Garnett is yelling to Ryder about how you own MJ. And Ryder is telling KG, dude, shut up. Well, there's a stoppage in play. And KG says he can feel MJ staring at him. Garnett gets a dunk. Now he's talking even more. He's telling Michael, you don't know who you're messing with. And then he says in the next 6 to 7 minutes, Michael forced not one, but 2 10-second calls. He scored 18 points in a matter of minutes and rallied the Bulls to beat Minnesota by 25 in a game they were just winning. KG said in a timeout, his own coach chewed him out for starting it all, and he had to go around and apologize to his teammates for getting Michael Jordan going. If that's not enough, remember back in the summer of 2020, remember that awful summer, COVID? The Last Dance was released. It was a documentary discussing Jordan's career and his final season in Chicago, and guys were still afraid to talk trash to Jordan. It wasn't that he was going to fight you. It was that Jordan was going to embarrass you in front of everyone. He would go out of his way to destroy you. And like it or not, Michael Jordan is the Daly Dose scariest athlete on the playing surface of all time because he would ruin your career. And he did it to a number of guys. Hey, next week on The Dose, we will, of course, be keeping you up on all that is going on in the world of sports. And you know that college football season, it's right about the halfway point. We just might have to bring you a college football mid-season report. We might have to give you a little bonus extra time next week to check in and see how things are going. Be sure you tune in next week and be sure you let a friend know to do the same. Hey, remember, you should be stopping by DailyDoseSports.com every week. See what new things we have going on over there. We did release a new article this week talking about the Denver Broncos. Hey, strong start right now, but it's going to get a lot tougher. But we do also have links to the podcast over there. And yes, we do have links to Daily Dose gear. You might need some Daily Dose gear going into the fall. You might need a hoodie, might need a sweatshirt. We've got it over there. Be sure you check it out. You can always email the podcast at dailydosesports@gmail.com. And you know, we've heard from a few listeners recently. We do appreciate that. I want to say thank you to each and every one of you for listening to the Daily Dose every week. Thank you for the emails. Thank you for the text. Thank you for the tweets. But most of all, thank you for sharing the show, for sharing the videos, for sharing the articles with someone that you know. We absolutely love it when you do that. Have to say thank you to Jess P. Could not do any of this without you. I will see you all next Wednesday. Have a great week, everybody.